Welcome back, everybody, to It's Time. Lindsley and I are so excited to introduce to you today Mr. Erwin Valencia, who I had the pleasure of meeting in person a few weeks ago. And we became fast friends, I'll say it that way. Just a very serendipitous connection, and timing has aligned for us to be able to collaborate on many things. And after meeting him, I knew instantly that Lindsley and I needed to talk to him and share him with all of you. And so I'm not going to waste any more time. We're just going to jump right in. And Erwin, I can't even do your history justice, like reading through your profile, but I think there's so many similarities to the life course that Lindsley and I have had that started out in kind of a more traditional, you were more traditionally a physical therapist and recovery expert in sport, and then have kind of gone under this transformational journey to really through your profession, unlock the other side of recovery that athletes really needed, and working with these elite athletes for so long that led you to this gratitude space, this mindfulness space, this wellness space. And so I would just love for you to share your journey about where you started to where you are today and the path along the way.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me, Jen and Leslie. This is a serendipitous connection, if you must. And on this beautiful Sunday in Park City or in Miami, I think I think this is and will always be the perfect time for anything. And so I'm so grateful for allowing you ladies to have me on your show. My journey, if I really told the whole story, would definitely be in an entire book or probably a 2 hour Netflix special, which it will be in the future. Which will be in the future. But in the end, I think that the number one word that I will always go back to, besides gratitude, is curiosity. So my life has always went through and ended in curiosity. At a young age, I was always fascinated with history, ancient history particularly. I was always fascinated about traveling to ancient sites as well as mysteries, where I grew up in my grandmother's house that had these old collections of Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew and these adventures that these kids would go to, finding and solving mysteries, but also discovering the world. And this was before Dora the Explorer even existed. And so for me, that was kind of like my ethos. And on top of that, my father had a library filled with books of the code of Bushido and the samurai and Shaolin monks and ninjas and all these things and all these like martial arts kind of situations, which in itself it's its own journey. And so for me, it's always been about finding that balance between activity and stillness, between peace and violence, between courage, but also letting go. And so I think it's the juxtaposition of my life that has made me, I guess, a multifaceted, multi hyphenate with a somewhat indecision of how I define myself, but also being content with just being. And I think that is, I think for more than anything else, has been really the cusp of my journey of what I am today. And yeah, I think from the education standpoint, I'm very blessed to have lived and traveled and studied around the world, even at the young age, and then started physical therapy initially in the Philippines. And then from the Philippines, found myself doing an athletic training and sports medicine program in New Hampshire on scholarship, and then did a fellowship program at Yale while I was trying to be a liaison for the sports medicine department as well as the athletic department to try to study a lot of the core principles, so to speak, when the core muscles were still being a thing to understand, by a guidance of a gentleman who was a disciple of a guy named Stuart McGill, who was like the back pain core person from Waterloo in Canada, and was just a liaison for that. And then I started my first doctoral program at North Carolina at Chapel Hill, ended up not following through with that and ended up finishing in Florida because I ended up working in baseball at the same time. So I found myself working in Major League Baseball for 8 years, and then finally fulfilled a dream that an 18-year-old kid wished for when that he wanted at the age of 36, 18 years later, by being the first Filipino raised and educated in the Philippines to have an NBA court on as his office on a daily basis. And not for me. And I think even when I got that opportunity, it wasn't even just for me and the ego to say that I did it, but more for the fact that I knew there was going to be millions of Filipino kids out there that could look and watch TV, especially at Madison Square Garden, and say like, wait a minute, is that guy, first of all, who's that Asian dude? Second, wait a minute, he's Filipino? And that really drummed up a lot of media presence for me. For me, it was more than just a personal thing. It was the fact that having kids back in the Philippines see that it's possible. Till this day, even 2 years removed from the NBA, I still get LinkedIn DMs or Facebook DMs or Instagram DMs almost every day for kids asking me how I can get there. And for me, if that's the legacy I've been able to leave, then I think I've lived a full life and I can move forward in life whenever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about your, I'm going to use your word, your curiosity into this space of mindset and gratitude, and how that has really shaped the way you not only worked with really elite athletes, but in the work that you're doing now and in the work that you do overseas. I know you spend a lot of time still in the Philippines, and give a lot back to communities all over the world. And so I would just love to dive deeper into that. You know, Linz especially is our kind of mindset guru and really helps us to understand, especially people, you know, I come from such a strict kind of scientific background, and not that there's not a great ton of great science behind this, but these are topics that were harder for me to grasp, right? Like when your heart doesn't work, I understand physiologically why your heart doesn't work, right? But like taking these more emotional and cognitive concepts and translating them into how they really affect our bodies, I think is just an area that fascinates me. And so I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, go ahead, Lindsay.
As you're thinking about it too, because I think one of the perspectives that you bring that's so powerful is this curiosity and the intersection with time tested truisms, right? Like, so, thinking about the work that maybe your dad surrounded you with, people knew about these things, the ancient history of taking care of our mental health and our physical health, and then this intersection with modern day technology and science, which makes it a little easier for our world and our cohort to digest these things that as a collective we've always known. So I'd also love to hear your perspective on how you're bringing those together, the age old truths with the modern day science requires, to bring those things into an applicable context for people, and especially in the highly competitive world of athleticism.
My journey in the space really began as a 7 year old, or even before. Like I said, I think reading those books on how samurai lived in the world of both violence and stillness and peace at the same time, where their main mission and purpose in life was to defend the emperor, and they practiced with swords and killed when needed as a defense. But during the periods of time of peace, they would look out into nature, practice mindfulness, paint, write. And I think I've always resonated with that. And actually, a little side note, this summer, about a month ago, I met a 16th generation samurai who also had a bloodline of a ninja. And I was fanboying like no other. I went to this conference in Amsterdam with one of my communities, Mind Valley, and they brought this samurai in. I've been surrounded by pretty well-known people in my life at Madison Square Garden, or even at all our Mind Valley events and all the other things I've been invited to. But I've never fanboyed on anyone at all until the samurai came to town. And I was like, oh my God, this is who I've always wanted to be. This 5 year old kid inside of me is just exploding right now.
Yeah.
Utterly exploding. I want to be on stage. I want to be on stage. I want to use the sword. I'm like, oh my God, it was wild. So meditation came into my life in a formal way through martial arts at the age of 7. And it's something I've continued till this day. I've been meditating every single day in long form, short form. And that's helped me go through and have the courage to go through some of the most challenging parts of my life. And that curiosity that I started with as we started this conversation has also allowed me to look more into how I can be better at this meditation. I thought when we were learning through martial arts, and I started teaching when I was 12, where it was just look at a blank screen and just have nothing, like you're looking at TV and it's making you blank. At the age of 14, I got exposed to something called the Silva method. And the Silva method is one of these really older thought processes, where there was this I think he was a neurologist in El Paso, Texas, that had that had Portuguese roots, and Dr. Jose Silva, started figuring out like some of his patients just weren't getting better. Then he started looking into ancient wisdom. Add to that, and what made him really popular, or what made the Silva method popular, was the fact that it was the first ever kind of personal growth meditation program that was sold like Avon. In a sense, it was like an MLM situation, and their big market was Asia, because they knew that Asian kids were type A. So how can we like market to that? And all they need to do is put a little 1/8 ad in their main newspapers, and they were sold out at every class or seminar that they did, and they sold it like Avons. And for me, that was the beginning of really like mind power. How do I use my mind? I mean, at the age of 13, 14, I learned how to bend a spoon, and then because you completely blank everything out. But then once you start getting competitive and say, hey, I can bend a spoon bigger than yours, then your power actually gets lost, which is funny as you talk about life. It's when we know that we are in power and just be it, that's when beautiful things happens. When we become boastful and tell the world that we're the guru, we're the best, we're whatever. And that, oddly enough, that's when things don't really go well, because now there's these expectations that you're supposed to be that, rather than just being, and let people observe from the side. That said, combine that with a culture that is based and lives in gratitude. It's a pretty epic situation once you're aware that you are gifted in your DNA with all of this. And in the Philippines, there's two concepts. One is called kapwa, which is a concept of being part of a community and embracing your community no matter what. And the concept of bayanihan, which is bahay means house, and nihan means help to transfer that house. So in a sense, a community in helping each other. Let's say if somebody wants to move their bamboo hut to another bamboo hut, the entire village gets together and moves the hut together. And so community and this bayanihan, or helping each other, is a trait that I have. And the fact that we live in gratitude, meaning that with all the calamities and all the challenge in the world, we look back and say, hey, at least we're alive. And then we can move further from that. So combining this curiosity, Shaolin, samurai, monk situation, and then the cultural aspect of who I am as a Filipino and living in gratitude on a daily basis, mash that up into now an opportunity to do that at the highest level of sport, has probably been my greatest legacy and gift to the world of sport, and particularly to the NBA. And that really started for me when I was lucky enough to have Phil Jackson as my president when I was with the Knicks, and allowed me to really do my thing. And as he was then let go, ironically, David Fisdale, who was actually ironically with the Miami Heat as an assistant, was really into personal growth. I met him through a Tony Robbins event. He became our head coach, and then he gave me carte blanche to do it anytime, every time I wanted. And so I created a full on in season daily calendar put program of mindfulness, intention setting, breath work, even in the midst of practices. So he was able to give me the opportunity to really, everything inside of me to really let go. Unfortunately, because we didn't win a lot that year, that he was his first year as a head coach, he was fired, the year after that. So after 2 years, he was fired. And then Tibbs came in and he was like, none of this stuff.
Is there anything, when you're thinking about it, because you're working with, high performing athletes who have to have deployed some of their mindset muscle to get to the point where they are, and still you're able to bring newness and a different way to go about it that was compelling to them as athletes and to them as a team. If you think about that, translating it to kind of the everyday person, and, maybe specifically for our cohort, women in midlife they've heard of this stuff before. It's not their first rodeo. They know what meditation is. But are there some kind of like specific practices that you might say, hey, here's a new take on this gratitude or mindset work that maybe will make it accessible to you again, or will freshen it up a little bit for you again? In this moment in time when so many women are just overwhelmed by the day-to-day tasks, they're kind of dealing with either caregiving up and caregiving down, and would love to have a simple applicable toolkit to try to inject that energy that gratitude can bring to the tougher moments of life.
So I just call it in a pretty simple way: keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
We are inundated and overwhelmed with so many practices, techniques, theories. And so one of the ways we were able to work with not just the players in the NBA, but the number of clients in other leagues and teams and people I've worked off of basketball with as relates to the practice of gratitude in a high performance sports setting is to keep it as simple as possible. The first thing I say is like, before you even wake up in the morning, like fully. Do this practice. And this is like my 101. This is my gratitude stack, gratitude hack before it becomes a stack 101 is literally simple. While you're in bed, even with your eyes closed, put your right hand on your heart, put your left hand over the right hand, take a nice deep breath in your nose with your eyes closed still and breathe it out and just be grateful for the fact that you can take that breath.
Mm.
So every day in the morning, I wake up and as I slowly, gently come to it, I do this. I take a deep breath and I wake up and I say, I'm grateful for today that I can take this one breath so I can create more impact in this world. Literally, this is the mantra I say every morning. I'm grateful I can take this breath so I can create more impact in this world. And it's simple as that. And then by having that as a start, it not only makes you more mindful, because the fact that you just stop and take a breath. Two, it gives you your self time, space in the morning before the world comes to you.
Yes.
And three, you begin with gratitude. Because as you know, the science has shown and a lot of literature has shown that when you're in the state of gratitude, there's no other negative polarity that you can
Mm.
come into your system in that moment. You can be happy but still have a sadness to yourself. You can be joyful but have anger, like, yeah, I kicked your ass. But when you're in the state of gratitude in its truest form, you can't be anything else. Be like, oh, I'm so grateful, but I'm ungrateful. Like it can't, like
Mhm.
it just doesn't, it can't be in the same space. And
Yeah.
so if you start your day with that, that really everything else is cherry on the top
Mhm.
because you're grateful
Yeah.
for your breath, the fact that you notice that you can breathe and you notice you're alive. And then guess what? It's your job now to make this day the most amazing day of your life. And this is every day because why? We only have one bodysuit.
Mhm.
You got to live it. So
Let's take those concepts and I want to transition into what you've already touched on with this sense of community. Linz and I talk a lot about that, we all know how dangerous loneliness is, how easy in busy times and stress it is to isolate instead of engage, and that has kind of become the norm to pull back. I think coming out of COVID, that kind of became the norm. I'm stressed, I'm going to pull back away because that is safe, and being out is not. And so I think, it's interesting living where we did through COVID. There was less of that. And so it's interesting to see kind of how this has affected different parts. But I think going back to what we were talking even before we started today about how you are working to develop friendships and create community, especially from a male point of view, which I think is really interesting. We talk a lot about it from a female point of view and how women do it, but it's probably one area that women are given a permission that we don't often have and kind of given the green light to do that in ways that I think is much more challenging for men, and men are kind of judged differently for doing this. And maybe I'm wrong in that, but I just even looking at my own partner, he rarely goes, I mean, he'll go and play golf. He'll go to an activity with his friends, but like they rarely do something just to be together. It's, oh, let's go watch a game or let's go, there's always kind of a destination,
Mhm.
versus I'll be like, Linz, let's go for a walk and just catch up. It's a different type of gathering. So I think the more that we all understand and appreciate what it takes for other people to gather, we can be supportive of those activities and encourage them because we all know we need them.
Yeah. 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 I love that window.
community is, as I already mentioned earlier, is in my DNA. Being Filipino, you are raised to know that you're never alone and that you can always have help no matter what. In an even Filipino aspect, you can have help in other parts of the planet as long as there's a Filipino there. It's like this inner sense of a guaranteed support system no matter
Mhm.
what. And so as it relates to guys, I think at a younger age, we already meet a lot of our friends, and no matter what, we kind of all grow kind of old together. Where even if it's not for watching a game or an event, if you're just sitting down there having a coffee, or hey, I'm over here, you want to come over here, and it's just dudes talking to dudes, we're it's not been such too difficult for us in a sense in that way. But as I've spent obviously, my last 25 years here in the US, that I didn't realize how challenging that was going to be. You can't just come up to a guy, it's like, hey man, let's hang out. Because the dude's going to look at you and be like, what do you want from me, man? Unless you were like in a surfer society.
Yeah.
Surfers are a different story. Once you're in kind of these tribal communities, it's a different story. As I've gotten older, that's one of the things I've found a little bit more challenging as well, especially as somebody who travels a lot. Being
Mm.
able to then just have conversations with other guys without the expectation of like, hey, are we going to talk about business, or is he trying to help me hook up to his girlfriend, or basically to find a partner for me or whatever. Is there an expectation to this conversation rather than just being able to chill? And so obviously that's why a lot of these men's circles have been formed in order for this kind of like connection to occur. But also in today's world, there's a lot of these events now that kind of make it happen without really forcing it to happen. And I'm going to give a shout out to my friends from Coffee and Chill here
Mm.
in Miami, who today is a big day for my friend Lucy. It's a women founded event here in Miami where you have cold plunges and coffee. And today they're doing it. Speaking of guys, they're doing it for the first time with a tie with the Miami Dolphins at the Miami Dolphins Stadium. So they're having coffee, chill, DJ at a Miami Dolphins game, watching a football game. And so talk about like a situation where you're going to be with girls and guys in a setting where you're eventually going to meet people that like, hey, is this your first football game? Yeah, me too. Oh, man, it's kind of crazy. And if you like it, then now you have people to watch it with. Or B, like, no, it's really not my thing. You want to grab a coffee next time anyways? Yeah, sure. So I think there are events nowadays that in a sense curate for these connections to occur. I mean, many of the conferences I find myself in are heavily curated in the connection aspect and connection space rather than the content. The content are just a means for people to have touch points and talk points, but it's the connection that's the main event. And for me, being able to be more conscious in that space and be like, okay, I'm going to allow myself to bump into people and see whether or not these guys that I bump into have commonalities. And if they're the
Mm.
same level of conversation or experience, to be like, hey, want to grab a coffee? No expectation. Yeah, sure. And like
Mm.
I was talking about earlier, literally bumping into a guy in my building who was driving down with a 1978 silver Mercedes Benz SL, 450 SL with red leather interior. That like, oh my god, you have my dream car. Like, and this looks perfect. He goes, dude, this is what my dad had in the eight. And that's why I bought it. I was like, oh my God, it reminds me of like my grandmother. My grandmother had this Mercedes that was silver too. And he goes, let's connect. Let's grab a coffee. Okay, cool. So we just really miss each other, connected. And then last week, I had I guess my first bro date with him. And, we ended up speaking for 3 hours about life and the
Yeah.
journey. And it's been good. And so it's something that I feel that, like I said, after this podcast, we're going to meet again to talk about the same thing. But this time I'm bringing him to my little social wellness club and chat in the sauna, because
Yeah.
I think nowadays the sauna is a great place to have these conversations, whether it's just a regular chat or even business nowadays.
Yeah. Well, as you're describing that too, Jen and I are thinking about, hey, how do we support our partners, our husbands in this journey? It sounds like you brought up two things that are kind of like actionable, tactical. One is just to normalize it, like, talk about it is like, hey, this is a thing and it's common. It's not you as a dude who maybe doesn't have the ability to connect. It's like dudes, period, don't have a roadmap or an infrastructure that normalizes it
Yeah.
yet. So one is to normalize it, but then two is to really create calendar space for it. Like to encourage your partner, like just get out there to the things you like doing and go bump into people who are also doing those things,
Yeah.
because you've described the things that you get out and do. And it's like the internet, you put 100 things out and 3 things convert. You have to have time to do those 100 things to find the 3 that are going to convert, right? So that's a tactical way women can support this for their partner or wherever their male relationships are, to help them build that community.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Jen.
Oh, no, no. Please answer it, because I have a kind of slightly different question. So please.
Yeah, so funny. Yesterday, so one of our yoga instructors at the social wellness club here, she was celebrating her birthday, and I walk in, and I thought I was part of the birthday, and there was 10 women. And I said, you said I was invited, but is it a girl thing? Like, I didn't know what was happening. I mean, great. I
Yeah.
mean, 10 beautiful women is right in front of me. Like, oh, and then they all looked at me. It's like, are you joining? I was like, you know what? I paused for a second. I said, you know what? Let this be a queen celebration, and I'll be your servant for today. And they're like, oh, then everyone clapped. Yay. So I was like, okay, I know what I paused for a second. I said, I know what my role is here. You guys, ladies, enjoy it. Have the best time. Enjoy this birthday. I'll be the back end. I'll bring the waters, provide the cake and stuff, instead of being part of it, because then I want to make sure that the birthday celebrant enjoyed her time completely and not have to. I didn't want her to have to be the DJ. I didn't want her to have to teach the yoga class.
Yeah.
So I pretty much filled in everything else to support that. And so, as you were talking about, Lindsay, is like, I think if, let's say, like my partner would support me in that similar way too, was like, hey, yeah, if you're bringing a bunch of guys together and you guys doing a workout, like you're doing like a kettlebell workout or a primal flow workout or whatever you want to call it, do it and do it. And, I'll be there to support you. I'll bring you guys to waters and stuff. And I think by doing that, you create that space of safety where
Yeah.
like, no, no, come join in. And then like, no, 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 there's five guys here. You guys should have this experience as guys, as men, so that then you can get into your masculine, and I'll be here to support. If you want to, cool.
Yeah.
But like, I think having the pause for a second and be like, I see what's going on here. How can I
Mhm.
make this better for my partner, for this to be an even more epic event? And I think you touch it on the head exactly, but the nail ahead and saying like, get out there, do your thing. I don't need to be at everything that you're doing. I just want you to be able to enjoy you as a man.
Love that concept of, I don't know, this like light bulb just went off in my head when you guys are talking about this ability to, we feel like community, we got to be together. We got to do all of this together. Like even in my family, like everybody's busy and scattered. And so when we have time together, we must be together. Instead of saying, sometimes the best way for me to create community is to step back and let you have yours and know that I'm here supporting. It's not like I'm not engaged, but I don't have to be center stage. I don't have to be in it
Yes.
to be supportive
Yeah.
and part of it. I love that idea. And I think it takes a lot of pressure off a lot of people in a way too. To be able to recognize that a little bit, that like I can tell you now that I travel so much for work and all of these things. When I'm home, I feel like I have to drive to everything. I need to be at everything because that's the only time I have. And now I'm like, wow, I can be present for people without having to be in it all the time and let them still feel supported and connected and me still feel like I'm contributing. And so it's a win-win, but not having to be like in it.
Right.
I think that's amazing. Tell us about your social wellness club. I think
Yeah.
this is awesome, you know, because you're executing something that for a lot of people, we don't we don't understand, or for a lot of people don't have the opportunity to do this. So you're combining these two critical things. So talk to us about this. I think it's so cool.
Yeah. So the concept of the social wellness club was the phrase itself was put together by Jack, who was the founder of a place called Remedy Place. Opened his first studio in LA. He took the concept that everyone was loving the whole sauna and cold plunge situation, but made it more sleek and then added more technology and all that stuff. But his model is quite different because what he does, it makes it like a karaoke club where I don't know if you've both been to karaoke clubs where
Yes.
you have a room that you rent. You go in the room and you and your two friends are like, let's go karaoke, and no one else knows, so their concept is that more like, okay, rent the cold plunge and sauna room with you and your friends and have it there and rent it by the hour or whatever you want to call it. So that was his concept. But then he added, hyperbaric chambers, all that other stuff. And then another friend of mine, Robbie Dent, and his crew up in Toronto, they actually had the concept down from the true social aspect. The company is called Othership, and Othership started in Toronto, and they started as a polar plunge for New Year's in Lake Ontario during the New Year's Eve. They got that community together to grow to 1,500 people, and then say, how can you connect? So they created the app so that everyone can connect, have the same music, follow the same breath work, whatever. And then the community said like, hey, we need a space rather than just doing it in random places. Let's do a space.
Mhm.
So then they created the actual space. They have a sauna that can fit like 80 people. And then like in the sauna, they do breath work and journaling and yoga. And then they have this whole thing, curated concept with different scents and towels. And then you jump in the cold plunges and stuff. And there's an area where you can sit and have tea. And then they've gone to the next level, have now had these sauna raves, sober sauna raves where people are just doing this. And then I'm an investor on Othership because I love the concept. I love the community concept. And so I had an opportunity here in Miami with a friend of mine who was part of my XPT teachers class. And XPT is a program started by my Gabby Reese and
Yeah.
Laird Hamilton. And it's like these workouts that you do underneath the water with weights and you try to hold your breath and all that stuff. And my friend Milan was in the nightlife scene for a long time and had an epiphany and said like, hey, I'm quitting the nightlife. I'm quitting logistics. I bought a bunch of equipment. I'm about to sign a lease. I need help. I was like, okay, what do you need? It says, I have this concept. I'm going to help you out. So what we did is then created Miami's first outdoor social wellness club. We're not officially open yet. We'll open in about 2 3 weeks, but
Mm.
we've been doing a soft opening because business permits and all that stuff for a physical space nowadays. People have gone so digital and so at home situation that now trying to open a physical space, you realize it's harder than you thought. Everyone's like, oh, I can make my LLC online really quick. Okay, now I have a business. Let's go. But when you have a physical space, it's not just the construction, it's the permits to make the construction, and then
Yeah.
the ADA compliance and all this, so many things. So finally, we've started classes this summer. And then what we've done is made it different, where instead of being in a building, we're surrounded by bamboo and nature. So you would, when you come
Mm.
here, you feel like you're in Tulum or Bali. And so the sauna is a 14-person barrel sauna with a window that's glass, opens into a little jungle. And the cold plungers are outside. So even when it's raining, it's just part of what it is. And then we have a deck that is a wooden deck that has a Tahitian roof where we do all our workouts. This is where we have animal flow, we have Persian mace, rope flow. So it's very primal, very in the nature situation. And then we have a little small little area which is we have a low tea, like a tea ceremony type table where people
Mhm.
can then gather after they either work out or plunge. And then we have a longevity suite inside a little bungalow that has a hyperbaric chamber, a float tank, a red light therapy room, and and a lymphatic drainage suit. So we give people the choices. Would they want to be more on the tech side, or do we want to be more on the primal side? And
Mhm.
then we partner up with somebody already in our little village who does a lot of the IV therapies and NAD shots and all that stuff, and the biomarker testing and all that stuff. Because one of them want to make sure, and my biggest task for this is for this entire village that I'm part of, for everyone here to eat in a sense. So rather than trying to own everything and have everything, say what are we good at, what we love. And for me, it's about community and bringing people together and having this time that we celebrate and you get to know each other, and then let other people around the community say, hey, if you like to do the IVs, go ahead and do the IVs, rather than trying to bring the IVs to us. You already have the license, you already have the expertise, do that. We'll just bring people together. And I think for us, this has been always been like a dream situation for me, to then be able to also, in a sense, see patients in the back, if ever, but in a very different mindset. So you're coming in here, and if let's say you're going through a little rehab, you want to run a marathon again, you haven't run a marathon in a while. And so understanding your body movements and all this stuff in a very primal way is a different type of thought process. It takes a special type of person to understand that. That means you've done the work. Maybe you've done the kind of practices that are very different. And so it's one of those funky little places that is becoming a hidden gem in Miami.
It's amazing. It's so interesting to, again, just to expand on what you just said of we've all retreated into this digital world, and to bring people back to connect in person is so powerful. And getting to that process. And I think even, to your point, we've forgot the investment of what it takes to build a physical place. And I am definitely in that, I am definitely in that, as well as we are building a new resort, and just the challenges, but also the opportunity to design spaces that foster community,
Yeah.
and the thoughtfulness that you've put into this to really harness that idea of a tribe or a family or these different units that function so well together. It's really a special thing.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
I mean, I the vision was the main founder here, mainly an advisor and an operational partner to this, knowing that I can give a gift for them to be able to like grow this into something. But he really wanted it, and I was very blessed to have so much years of experience, not just
Yeah.
as an investor of a number of these social wellness clubs, but also as a participant of these many communities. And so for me, it's like, how can we make this a special place on its own? And the brand that is known for that. And so I think that's the greatest gift that I've been able to give. And for me, it's also a place for me. The fact that literally it's next door. So at the end of a hard day, a perfect Friday, I saw like a bunch of patients in this little clinic that I'm working at, and I was just so tired. And then one of the partners, Carrie, was like, "Oh, why don't you come over and get some sauna in?" I was like, "Do I really want to?" And
Right.
then I did. and I felt amazing afterwards, and I was able to sleep amazing afterwards. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of funny to literally, and then because it literally is next door. So why
Yeah.
not?
Amazing. Yeah. I love it. Well, I want to thank you for your time. And I know Lynn's had a little technical issue. She hopefully will be back in just a minute. But where can people find you? So if they want to learn more about what you're doing and all your initiatives, where's the best place to go to?
The best place to find me is on all my socials, starting
Okay.
with my Instagram page at Erwin B Valencia. And that's my Instagram page. That's even my LinkedIn.
Okay.
That's my Instagram page, my LinkedIn, my Facebook, my X, Twitter,
Okay.
whatever it is, my TikTok, my whatever you want to call it. So that's the easiest way to find that. Or just go into my website at www.erwinvalencia.com.
Okay.
That will have a number of my initiatives, but
Okay.
also some of the things that talk about as relates to presence.
And I want to make a correction to an error I made. I think I introduced you as Mr. Erwin Valencia, and it is Dr. Erwin Valencia. And
It's all
so I
good.
want
I'm just
to.
E. I'm just E. I'm just E. That's I don't get caught up in any of that. I'm just.
No, I know, but
E.
I just wanted to correct my error there. So
Aw, thanks, Jen.
thanks for your time. Enjoyed having you on. I'm so grateful that you are part of my community and Lindsley's community, and I'm excited for the work that we're going to do together going forward. So thanks for your time.
Let's rock. Let's go.
Let's go.
Stay grateful. Let's go.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us here today. If you liked what you heard and you got some tips on how to live better right now and for the long haul, please help us reach more midlife women. Please share and rate and like this show. And we can't wait to continue the dialogue with you on our next episode. Until then, thank you. It's time.